That's odd.
Report suspicious activities.
It's raining today.
April 2017. It's hearing number, you don't even know, you're done with all of it. This particular immigration detention hearing goes off kilter right from the get-go, as usual, as they ask you to identify yourself again. Madam, I hope that everything you do against me, it will stop, you reply in French via video link from an Ontario prison. I will listen to what you have to say, sir, but I would like to know first of all, am I speaking to the right person? Says the adjudicator. I don't care what you do, madam. You can go to hell. That's all I have to say to you. Go to hell. You stand up and head for the door. The hearing is not over, she calls out. I don't care. Go to hell, you yell back as you storm out of the prison's video conference room. A prison guard appears, assuming the hearing had concluded, and announces that the next inmate slated for a hearing is en route. Actually, the hearing has not even started, the adjudicator tells him. The bewildered guard asks, how come he left? The jury asks, who is he? You are a French citizen, or so you say. You are imprisoned in Canada's maximum security prison. You have not been convicted of a crime because officials don't know, or rather believe, who you say you are. Instead, the courts have designated you the unknown person. You are in a bizarre state of limbo. Until Canadian officials can confirm your identity and nationality, they cannot deport you. But until they can deport you, they don't want to release you. About the only thing the Canadian government seems sure of is that you, a roughly 40-year-old man, are not who you claim to be, even after an international investigation spanning 11 countries across 3 continents. It's been a Kafka-esque decade. Nobody believes you. You are unknown. This is the story of Herman Emmanuel Fankum. October 28, 2012. Herman arrived in Montreal, Canada on a flight from Cuba. At customs, he handed over a French passport. He said this wasn't his first visit, that he had originally visited Canada 6 months prior and had left just a week before for France. He was returning, he said, for his friend's sister's wake. He provided plans to stay at a Days Inn in Montreal, along with reservation details, $3,000 in a bank account, and a return airline ticket. And so, he was given a 10-day visitor's visa and welcomed back. November 7th came and went, but Herman was still in Canada, as authorities would learn 6 months later when Toronto police arrested him for a scam. A black money scam. A black money scam, also known as a black dollar or wash-wash scam, is a variation of the typical advance fee fraud, otherwise known as the Nigerian prince scam. In this scheme, an individual or group will have a large amount of money that needs cleaning, quite literally. A large amount of cash is covered in oil, dye, powder, or some other concealing substance to avoid detection by customs or law enforcement, after which the money will need to be cleaned in order to become usable currency, which is where the scheme begins. And so it was. A Toronto man had put up a real estate ad on Craigslist for a commercial property. Herman answered with the black money scam. He and his 4 enterprising associates told the man he had a large sum of money arriving from South Africa, but the money had been covered in a black coating to get it out of the country and needed to be cleaned off with a special chemical. They showed the victim how it worked, with black bills becoming clean right before his eyes, with one caveat: the chemical was expensive. But they somehow convinced the victim to oblige for the deal to go through. And over the next several months, the victim got sucked further and further into the scheme, giving Herman and his associates approximately $450,000 before learning that the black money was nothing but construction paper. Unfortunately for Herman, the police would catch up to him and his scheme. April 9, 2013. Officers arrested Herman at a hotel where he was staying under a different name. He said his passport was at his apartment in Montreal. Regardless, police charged him with 2 counts of fraud and personation. But when they learned he was a visitor to Canada, they called the Canada Border Services Agency, CBSA. As such, on August 20, 2013, all criminal charges against him for the fraud were stayed, aka suspended, at the request of prosecutors to facilitate his quick removal from Canada. If Herman thought he was free, he would be mistaken. While released from his criminal charges, he was immediately held in immigration custody to await deportation to France. And if officials thought he would soon be shipped off too, well, they would be just as wrong. August 22nd, 2013. "I am French," Herman said at his first hearing. Strangely, he demanded to remain in Canada to face trial for the fraud charge. "I asked for a trial so that I could settle the allegations against me. My right is to prove that I am not guilty," he said. He was ordered detained that day and many times after. The process got increasingly frustrating for everyone. He refused to meet with CBSA officers trying to solve the mystery of who he was. He refused to have his photograph taken or to give fingerprints. He even started refusing to appear at his detention reviews, creating an odd situation at each hearing where the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada, IRB, would connect via video link to an empty chair, leaving the link running during the hearing in case he changed his mind and attended. He never did, and each hearing ordered his continued detention. In a remarkable display of defiance, over 4.5 years, Herman refused to attend 51 detention review hearings. According to internal notes, he spurned CBSA officials wanting to speak with him at least 40 times within 5 years, often telling them to go f*** yourselves and claiming they had kidnapped him. And despite insisting he needed to speak to French diplomats, he refused to be taken to meet with them, twice. But as he marked time in prison, information about his elusive identity slowly trickled in from agencies around the world. October 2013. A diplomatic cable from Paris reported that the individual known as Herman had previously acquired multiple identity and travel documents through the use of a fraudulent birth certificate in Paris. An examination of municipal records revealed it was fake. It neither looked like a real birth certificate, nor did the serial number match the numerical sequence for a 1980 birth. Furthermore, no one named Herman Emmanuel Fancom was in the registry. According to the cable, in 2009, after wiretaps, searches, arrests, and interrogations, Paris police exposed a ring selling passports using fraudulent birth certificates for €750 each. One of the conspirators admitted selling a passport in one particular name, Herman Emmanuel Fancom. Reports stated that the man using that bogus passport was arrested at a French airport trying to board a flight to Canada. Why he was released is not known. It's believed this might have been him, using the same identity and passport to eventually smuggle his way into Canada through Cuba. 2014. The French informed CBSA they believe he is from Cameroon. 2015. A police investigator in Cameroon told CBSA the man known as Herman used to be a clothing vendor in Cameroon who then moved to Britain. The inspector allegedly had shown his photo around where he was thought to have lived. 2016. The British police reported that Herman's fingerprint check came back positive for the name Bouan Emmanuel Febele, a citizen of Cameroon. But it was also positive for a different citizen of Cameroon, a citizen of Haiti, and a man of unknown citizenship. According to British cables, in 2007, when immigration agents in Britain interviewed Herman, he said he was from Cameroon. He said he didn't want to stay in Britain and had already bought an airline ticket for Canada. Further reports stated he was convicted for fraudulent documents and given an 8-month sentence in London. Afterwards, in 2009, he was convicted again, under a different name on a fraud charge and sentenced to 12 months imprisonment. 2017. Additional search requests were dispatched to other countries. A response from Germany returned, offering no reassurance and failing to alleviate suspicion as internal CBSA notes stated, "We are not permitted to disclose it." Even the U.S. Department of Homeland Security was asked to run through their expansive facial recognition system, but to no avail. June 2018, At yet another in absentia hearing, an IRB adjudicator ordered Herman to be released. However, the Public Safety Minister immediately appealed the decision to the Federal Court of Canada successfully. In February 2019, Judge Richard Bell ruled the release decision was unreasonable, stating, "During the course of the hearing before me, both counsel observed that this matter is complicated for all concerned. I disagreed. It may be complicated for detention review officers, lawyers, judges, and CBSA officials. It appears not to be at all complicated for the unknown person." Going even further to state, this court's impression is that the unknown person considers himself to be the director of a play, and Canadian authorities are but actors subject to his direction. Moreover, the Federal Court of Canada ruled that releasing him when he cannot be identified and will likely disappear when released strains all sense of logic. And so Herman sat in prison, waiting, again. May 14, 2019. According to government records, he appointed a lawyer who objected to the IRB's handling of the case, demanding a new detention hearing, as well as appealing to the Ontario Superior Court of Justice for intervention. However, IRB adjudicator Jean-Marc McCabe banned any observers from attending a scheduled public hearing on the matter the evening before the day of the hearing, leaving the media without any opportunity to oppose the request. In Canada's Immigration and Refugee Protection Act, IRPA, immigration hearings must be held in public, except under designated or extraordinary circumstances. Under this section of IRPA, a member is allowed to make a hearing private if there is a real and substantial risk to the fairness of the proceeding such that the need to prevent disclosure outweighs the societal interest. It seems his legal counsel, Swathi Sekhar, argued her concern that Herman may disclose information that would be harmful to his own case, telling adjudicator McCabe she had serious concerns as to the state of Mr. Fankum's mental health, and that the presence of the media at hearings and Mr. Fankum being transported to various locations to accommodate media presence may prove to be overly stressful to him and may lead him to revert to his past practice of non-participation. In a final statement regarding the decision, McCabe stated, "It seems logical to me that the presence of the media may cause him to return to his previous practice of refusing all contact. Some accommodation to address this potential concern is reasonable. While it is clear that the length of his detention is largely due to his lack of cooperation, his liberty rights have nevertheless been affected for over almost 6 years." Fair enough, yeah? Well, it gets weirder. June 24, 2019. As if the case couldn't get more convoluted, according to the Law Society of Ontario records, Herman's legal counsel, Swathi Sekhar, had been representing Fankum while suspended administratively from practicing law. A spokesman for the Law Society stated, "Our records indicate that Ms. Sekhar was suspended for administrative reasons, effective April 9, 2019. A lawyer who is suspended for administrative reasons, such as failing to pay fees or file forms on time, is not permitted to practice law and/or provide legal services." When asked about the suspension, Sekhar said her suspension had been rectified, but the Law Society did not confirm that. In her defense, she explained it was because she did not file an annual report on time, but declined to say when it was filed or to provide other information on the situation. In a final statement, she said, "It has been filed now. I don't have any reason to tell you any of that information, so that's the end of this conversation." Like client, like legal counsel, huh? And that was that. Every hearing has since been closed from public observers, with the only information coming from short press releases on the Immigration and Refugee Board's site. As per the latest update in 2020, 1. Herman's habeas corpus application for release to the Superior Court of Justice, Ontario, based on allegations that his detention was unlawful, was dismissed, with subsequent detention reviews resulting in further continued detention on grounds that he is a flight risk. 2. His designated representative resigned and he was no longer represented by counsel until July 28, 2020, when he was represented by new counsel who was retained by a newly appointed designated representative. 3. It was noted that he refused to meet or speak with either and provide instruction to his counsel, on top of refusing to participate in future detention review hearings. However, tucked in that short update, there seems to be what looks like a revelation. Well, sort of. Allegedly, Cameroonian authorities have confirmed that Herman is indeed a Cameroonian national. At his August 21st detention review, the minister confirmed that while the subject's nationality was now confirmed, his identity remains outstanding, as Canada still needs confirmation of his name and date of birth for the issuance of a travel document for the purpose of removal. Apparently, a travel document application was to be submitted to the Cameroonian consulate, though it remains unclear today if that has since transpired. So for now, the details of Herman the unknown person still ultimately remain unknown. Many questions remain unanswered, no doubt. Let's look at the one question that was answered first, though. Both Canadian and Cameroonian authorities have confirmed the unknown person is indeed from Cameroon. This is probably right, and it also makes sense, as not only is Cameroon a predominantly French-speaking nation, his first documented identities, including Boan Emmanuel Febele, which many believe might be this man's real name, also hailed from Cameroon. Though given the erratic uncertainty surrounding this story, there is a possibility that he hails from any of the other French-speaking nations in Africa. But on to the weirder question of his motivations. In the years since the unknown person was apprehended by Canadian authorities, there has been speculation that he might prefer to remain in a Canadian prison rather than return to his place of origin. Though this remains conjecture, it could explain his persistent belligerence and lack of cooperation with authorities, resulting in minimal usable information being provided over nearly a decade, despite being housed in a maximum security facility for the majority of that period. But why would he do this? A wild theory proposes that because of his now confirmed ties to Cameroon and the fact that his trail picked up in the mid-2000s, it's possible that he was attempting to escape the northern region of the country around the same period when the terrorist group Boko Haram rose to prominence. Perhaps he fears being repatriated because he might have antagonized certain individuals there who seek retribution against him. A bit of a stretch, but still in the realm of possibility, I guess. Another more probable theory posits that the unknown person might have had involvement in a larger criminal organization from the region, while his scam associates might retaliate for snitching on them and putting hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars at risk. There is a bigger, more threatening and more well-documented group that could be motivating him to remain unknown. Enter Black Axe Group, a criminal fraternity originating from Nigeria notorious for defrauding millions from individuals across North America, including numerous victims in Canada. The organization operates as a death cult, with members pledging literal blood oaths. Although the majority of the Black Axe Group's members hail from Nigeria, over the past several years, this cult-like group has expanded its reach beyond Nigeria, establishing multiple chapters in North America. Particularly in the last 15 years, they have been implicated in various frauds, murders, and sexual assaults in North America. Moreover, with speculations that the group has been operational since 2005, a timeline that coincides with the emergence of the unknown person in international records, it is plausible that fear of retaliation from such a group is making him hell-bent on remaining unknown. So yeah, a lot of speculations. But maybe the truth is much simpler and mundane. Maybe the unknown person simply doesn't want to spend time in Cameroonian prisons, which are notoriously terrible, having an obscene occupancy level that makes American prisons look hospitable in comparison. Or just maybe, contrary to the Canadian judge's assessment that he is some mastermind director, he is but an actor, subjected to a nightmarish bureaucratic play of which he doesn't have the capacity to fully comprehend. Maybe he truly believes that he has been kidnapped by an indifferent state, with the nature of his crime unknown, even to him, the unknown person.